Okay, so in this video I'm going to be talking about gaming and its association with happiness and whether I feel that gaming is associated with happiness or gives somebody happiness. Now in many ways I do think that gaming gives people happiness, and I do think that it can really change your life for the better. If you think I'm wrong, I get it, just let me explain. Now to fully grasp this concept and understand why gaming gives people happiness, we actually need to know what happiness is and what it can be defined as. So happiness can be defined as feeling or showing pleasure or contentment. Now one could argue that gaming gives a lot of people happiness, contentment, cheer, joy, whatever you want to call it. So video games have been around for quite some time. They were first introduced in the early 1970s when the first game Space came out in arcades, and in 1972 the first console came out, the Atari, which featured a game called Pong. But in 1977 the first home console comes out, which is called an Atari 2600. It featured games in color, interchangeable cartridges, and it featured a joystick that you could play with. And this was very big because for the first time you could play video games from your home, alone if you want, or with your friends in one little space. Then in 1981 Mario was introduced for the first time in the game Jumpman. This is a pivotal time in video game history because it drew a lot of people to play video games, and it really grew the fan base of video games. And Mario being the biggest video game star and the most recognizable video game character in the world today, it is a very important time for technological development in video games and for Mario. Then in 1985, Nintendo releases the Nintendo Entertainment System, better yet known as the NES.
What's it like to play the Nintendo Entertainment System? The Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with power.
This was the biggest launch in video game history. It sold more than 9 million units in the first week alone. And it's a very important console because it introduced games like The Legend of Zelda, Super Mario Brothers, that dog hunt game that everyone loves with the toy gun, and it was a very big time in video game history. Then in 1989, Nintendo introduces the Game Boy. This was crazy because it was basically the first time where you had a handheld console where you could play wherever you want. It had interchangeable cartridges, it had a long battery life, and people just seemed to enjoy it. In 2001, the first Xbox came out. In 2002, the PlayStation 2 came out. In 2005, the Xbox 360 came out. In 2006, the Wii came out. 2007, the PlayStation 3 came out. And then in 2013, or 2012, the Wii U came out, and then in 2013 the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One came out, and that's where we are right now. The technology of video games has influenced our culture in many ways, and it's implemented in our society very deeply today. We see it everywhere. We see it in schools, in public, in our homes. It's everywhere. We even play video games on our phones that we carry everywhere we go. Even the Kahoot that we play at school is considered a video game. It's interactive, it has online connection, it has pixels on a screen. It's made up of ones and zeros that make up a video game. To say that video games don't have an actual purpose in our society would be completely ignorant. We use it for military testing, we use it for health development, we use virtual reality. We use video games beyond just sitting in our homes and playing them. When talking about ethical problems associated with video games, it really comes down to one thing, and that one thing is too much of anything is bad for you. It's not the video game's fault that you're failing class or that you're addicted to it. It's your fault. There is this consistent trend in the media where they always try to make video games look like something terrible, and they always try to bash it for something that it's not. For example, there's this new game out right now called Pokemon Go. It has people exercising, it has people going outside, meeting new people, It has people, you know, interacting with people they would have never interacted with ever. And overall, everyone is having a great time with it. But of course, you already know all the journalists in the world are going, how do I turn this into something scary and bad?
But one feature of the game is causing concern today. It's called Allure.
Pretty strange stories linked to the game.
But it could be setting people up for some very dangerous situations.
And police fear possibly into harm's way.
Somebody with evil intent could also use Allure to draw you into a trap. Cops say somebody with evil intent could also use Allure to draw you into a trap.
Having to be scared of it, you already know that there's going to be those journalists and media outlets out there, you know, just bashing it and just saying things like, yes, this thing is pure, beautiful, and perfect, but did you also know that it can turn your children into slaves and monsters and self-controlled zombies? I mean, it doesn't actually happen, but have you considered it?
Do you remember what he said?
No.
He was trained to kill with Call of Duty and other video games.
He was trained to kill with Call of Duty and other video games.
The message. It's like...
I mean, look, I've been playing video games for literally my entire life. And it hasn't done one bad thing for me in my entire life. So I just think it's so clumsy when these news outlets try to make everything look so bad and demonic and evil. You know, relating to ethics and moral principles in video games, basically what video games are is a lot of video games tell stories. They tell stories of heroes, they tell stories of, you know, heroes defeating evil people, all that stuff. 17 years that I have been playing video games, they've taught me many things about, you know, trusting people or loyalty or just in general being a better person. Video games can tell a story, they can teach you things. And the idea that it can't, I think people who think like that are just ignorant and haven't actually gave it a chance. This game called Mario Kart 64. And when I was a little kid, me and my dad used to play this game together, and basically when you play enough times with somebody on that track, which is my dad, it creates a ghost for you in that track of your dad actually playing from like 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago. And me and my dad don't play that game anymore, but when I want to, I can race his ghost in that game. Like his actual ghost in that game. It's insane. There are a lot of things, you know, playing online with your friends, that can make you happy. Virtual reality for people who can't walk, you know, creating worlds where like technology is just so ahead right now. Like we can create video games for people, you know, wearing these virtual reality masks who can't walk in real life, but they can walk in virtual reality and it feels almost real to them. It makes them happy. It makes them genuinely cheerful, joyful, and happy.